All right, a very good morning to you. It's so good to see you on this Tuesday morning. I hope that you're well this morning, even as you start your day. Welcome to the show. This is Your World, and my name is Winnie Lubembe. So much to cover in the next, a few minutes, less than an hour, to go over 8 minutes late. But here we are today, and of course, we want to have a conversation on something that is very, very important, and for all of us to be mindful of. And this is life after prison. Of course, we all know there's a lot of stigma associated with the same. Because I was listening to one lady's story, and she was saying, even after, years later, she still does not feel that she has been accepted back into the society. So how is that like, and what is life like? And especially for those ones who have been incarcerated and have been released, that is what we'll be finding out on today's conversation. So like we all know that getting out of prison might sound like a reason to celebrate, a return to loved ones and to the free world. But for many, freedom can be a frightening prospect, and of course simply not knowing where to begin, and this is as far as rebuilding one's life is a significant challenge for many people, coupled with stigma both internal and external. So this therefore means support is very important. So then how does rehabilitation and reintegrating of returning citizens look like? That is what we'll be finding out on the show. And of course, like you can see, my guests are already here. And of course, we'll be talking to Sylvia Morobe, who's a programs director, and this is Crime CPOA, as well as Eric Waweru, who is a returning citizen. He has an inspiring story that you all need to listen to. And of course, we'll be joining them in just a second. But of course, we have a question for you, as per usual. And of course, the question is very simple. How do we embrace those returning from imprisonment? Once again, how do we embrace those returning from imprisonment? That is what we want to find out. So let's get to hear what some of you have to say. So Rose Dan says it depends on how the social reintegration process was carried out. Community acceptance of the ex-offenders is key to avoid reoffending. And of course, we'll be looking at this whole question about reoffending. It's very, very important for that. And of course, Martin Juma says, I have my brother who has been in prison for 11 years. He was released last month, and for real, he has a testimony. We've really embraced him. He is ready to start a new life after 11 years of imprisonment. All right, look at that. And then this is James. It says, okay, this is not related, but says we're prisoners of our lives. So when are we leaving? Okay, all right. That's different than what we are talking about today. And of course, Gilbert Chariot says it highly depends on the nature of the crime that took them in there. All right, and of course, majority of you have a lot to say as far as that is concerned. So keep talking to us. That is at NTV Kenya, both on Facebook and on Twitter. Is how you can reach us, and of course, we'll be looking at your comment. Remember, the question is very simple: how do we embrace those who are returning from imprisonment? And of course, we also look forward to what you have to say either on our Twitter handle, that is at NTV Kenya. And the hashtag to use is Your World, and tag me as well at Lubembe_Winnie. But the question is very simple. How do we embrace those returning from imprisonment? And like I said, in as much as we're here to talk about these things, we also need to hear what you guys have to say. So if you want to call in live and share, your feedback as well, feel free to do so. The numbers will be down on your screen in just a second. But the question is there on your screen, and that is, how do we embrace those returning from imprisonment? And of course, my guests are already here. Like I said, Sylvia Morobe, who's a programs director at Crime CPOA. It's so good to have you this morning. It's like we're in the spirit, eh? The black and the white is doing its thing. It's so good to have you. Karibu sana for joining us this morning on this very, very important conversation, really. And of course, we'll also have Eric Waweru, who is a returning citizen. And something that we all should note is that now you are a trained paralegal and you graduated. Yeah. Congratulations. So how is that? How's that? How do you feel about all that? Empowered. Right? Yeah. I like that. I really, really like that. But before that, you were in jail for 14 years.
9 months.
14 years. Hey! Has the details. 14 years, 9 months.
Yes.
You were released in 2019. You are a dad now.
Yes.
How amazing is that? But before that, we just want to go back, right?
Yes.
All the way, like 14 years, but it's 14 years
Oh.
when you're in prison, right? But it's like plus 4 years now since you were released.
Yes.
So what happened? What took you there?
First of all, thank you so much for hosting us. And I can remember it was back in 2003. I can say it's all about peer pressure. These are things of ganging up, clubbing, having girlfriends and everything.
Yeah.
It reaches a point that you don't have that money, which is the way to get money.
Yeah.
Let's go start stealing, graduate, start robbing. Out of that, I found myself behind bars.
All right.
Yeah, all because of peer pressure, nothing else. It's only that I didn't lack anything in the house, but out of peer pressure is what took me to prison.
Yeah.
Yes.
And sometimes seems cool, like you're saying that it's really cool to have all this power to go do what you want to do, and then and then escaping free and have whatever it is that you needed at that time, which sometimes it's not necessarily the best thing, right?
But
yeah, go ahead.
as they always say, the government hand is so long, so you can never escape.
The long hand caught up with you.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. I'll come back to you, to just give us more in terms of, can you remember what exactly happened? Were you with a group of friends, or were you alone that time and all those things? But for Sylvia, again, there's so many people who, first of all, are very quick to judge people. And I know there's several people who would say, yeah, there's several reasons why people do what they do and sometimes find themselves in the wrong hands, of the law. So can we just briefly just talk about our society, how it looks like right now, some of the things that might push people to go that direction?
Thank you again, Winnie, for having us this morning. And just looking at the society as is, and even the vision of Crime Sipoa as how we started, is that realization that, as Eric has mentioned, a lot of youth have that peer pressure and they lack the direction. There are things that you want to do because you want to seem cool, and there are others that you want to do, maybe we could say the cost of living is high, you're trying to make ends meet, small things, and would find that maybe lack of direction, that they don't know what to do, they don't know how to make the best choices, they don't know how to just, okay, they can't decipher right from wrong, to be honest. That's true. But it's just at that point, weighing the consequences, we look at the consequences, like, okay, fine, this might be wrong, but at the end of the day, it gives me temporary relief, it helps me put food on the table, it helps me look cool among my friends, I want to do it. And we find a lot of people getting into that. So, and then another thing that we've realized is also that a lot of people also don't know the law. So we get into situations that we get into trouble because we're doing stuff that we don't know has legal consequences. That's true. And you will never go before a judge and say, I did not know that was wrong. That will not suffice. Ignorance will not be any defense. So at Crime Sipoa, what we do in realizing that is, one, we work from a preventative wing to mentor. So to mentor the young men, mentor the young women, give them the life skills that they require to not bring just about a behavior change, but to bring an attitude change, that they can be able to realize that, yes, I may want to make this choice, but these are the consequences that are attached to it. How can I make better choices? How can I make better friends and all these things? We also go further to do the legal awareness training, so that you're able to know what the law says, you're able to know your rights, but not just your rights. We're very quick to shout hakie to hakie to, but every right has an attaching responsibility. So do we know the responsibilities that the law attaches on us that we need to live by, so that we are law-abiding citizens living according to the rule of law? And you see, like as Eric has mentioned, Eric is a beneficiary of the Crime Sipoa paralegal training program, where we just do it both in the prisons and both in the community, to get people to understand what the law is and get them to live within that line. And also now working with them in the prison for rehabilitation. How do we prepare you now that there are mistakes you made? Everyone deserves a second chance. Absolutely. So the mistakes that you made, how can you avoid those pitfalls so that you don't end up here? And then as you come out, you can come out as a members of society that, you know, are a productive member of society and you can be able to live. So we try to have that holistic approach to deal with the issues that we have noted that lead people to crime.
Absolutely. And of course, that is why we have Eric here, really, to just, you know, give people hope that at the end of the day, number one, we all deserve second chances. And it's what you do with that second chance that you're given. Because there's some people who, you know, would get out, but still, you know, reoffend. And they have to go back in, again, for several reasons. There's some people who say, you know, it's better there than inside, because it's a lot of things. But really, when it comes to crime, there's no justification, because again, there's some extremities where people lose their lives, people lose properties, you know, and all those things. But for Eric, like you said, this is something that you look back and say you would never want to do that again, right? Because of peer pressure and all those things. And a lot of people actually fall into that trap, you know, of peer pressure. So do you want to just take us through what exactly happened? Because it's not like the first time, you know, you did this, or was it?
No,
it wasn't right? Yeah. Yes. So do you remember what happened, you know, that day where, you know, you were arrested, like you said, Kono Serikali?
Yeah, because I remember it was on 23rd of December 2003, because it was a planned thing, because one more friend approached me, told me that there are so many millions somewhere, we go and take them. Only it was a setup. We didn't know it was a setup.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we went, we were about 6 of us, because we were told that it's about 12 million. We go and pick them. So, being a December...
How old were you then?
19.
19,
yeah.
Okay.
Being a December, we all have to have money in our pockets, so that at least we can satisfy our girlfriends and everything. So, we went, but unfortunately, it was not what we expected.
Yeah, it was like the 40 days.
Yeah. Found the police. They started shooting at us. We escaped, and luckily one of us was caught, but due to my long legs I managed to escape that day, but not for long. After a week they looked for me, they searched for me everywhere, but after a week they went to my mother's house. Yes, they told my mother, you know what, if you don't give us your son, wherever we'll find him, we'll shoot him. So my mother thought about it, and she knew where I was at that time. So she brought the scaries to where I was. She told me, you just go to prison, one day you'll come out. And it's true. That one day reached.
You did.
Yes.
You did, 14 years later.
It was not an easy journey.
And that is what I was going to ask. 14 years, every single you know, day of your life, right?
Yes.
At only 19. Could you just take us through your journey in prison?
It was not easy, because you were young, getting into prison. At that time, the prison was not that friendly, because food, you could eat food once a day, because there was a bit of problem over cooking. Water was a big issue. But as we went along, I knew some friends who were in there, who helped me to get along. Because the first 3 years in prison are so hard. You just feel like that if you get an anthole, you can escape through that place. If you get a rope, you can hang yourself. But all along, my friends stood by me, who I found inside there. But the only thing that I was so bitter, to be honest, with my mother, to the fact that she's the one who brought the scaries to the place I was. But I didn't see it in another angle. So I was so bitter, I didn't want to see her. Here I am in court, battling cases, because I had 2 cases. But at the end of the day, I returned to God and knelt down, and I said that the problem is with me. I have to change. So walking that journey in prison was not that easy for me, because it's only that you're seeing walls and the sky, nothing else. Seeing somebody like Sylvia walking around that time, it was a miracle. And like now, the open door policy came along, and everything is okay these days. So like, let me just relax, everything will be okay. But for me, I always say that going to prison was a blessing in disguise, because many of the people that I left outside, they are no more. They are along Langata highway, somewhere there in the cemetery. Yeah. So for me, when I came out, it was, I asked myself, if, it's like my mother knew what she was doing. She's no more, but I really thank her for everything. Yeah, so it was not easy for me, but for the mentorships that Crime Sipo has been bringing in the prison, they've made us to be good people, because you know, you have that bitter part that kwa nini niko hapa, but through the mentorships and the counseling sessions that we have been having in prison, they've made me to change and be a better person that I am today.
I mean, I was listening to your story and said you can't, like now you have a job.
Yeah.
And this is something that you wouldn't have imagined yourself, you know, a long time sitting in an office and just doing an honest, you know, job and earning from the same, which is a really good thing. But is there something that you can remember, like an incident or maybe two that really stuck with you? And I'm not saying like a positive experience, because again, every time we hear prison, there's a lot of things, you know, that comes to mind. So was there like an incident or two that stuck with you?
I remember 2008 31st when they came a raid. So it's just a normal search, but you know, as a prisoner, you have to be that person that you will not allow just askaris to enter your cell. So we were like, no, you'll not search us. Then they came a raid. Okay. Then we were beaten. Even I have a mark that up to date that I remember. Whenever I touch it, I remember prison. So at that point is when I realized that I'll have to change for the good.
All right.
Yeah, because all just if you remember those times in committee, they were all over news. It was called the small Dubai, because everything that was there was just it was another world. We call it the 48th county. Yeah, because
it's like a county itself. Okay.
Yeah. So that day I was almost dying because my two legs were broken. Oh, wow. I had about 12 stitches on my head.
All right.
Being in Kenyatta ward for 6 months, it was not easy. Yeah, there came a lady. She didn't know me, I didn't know her. She prayed for me and told me, one day you'll come out. Yeah. But for you to come out, you have to change.
That's true.
Yeah.
It takes willpower. You have to want it yourself.
And I think my change came from there, and that was my turning point.
Absolutely.
And I was never going to church, but after that incident, I realized that church is very important.
Yeah.
It was not an easy journey from 2008 to 2019. It was a long journey, but I had faith that one day things will come out well and I'll be free again.
And here you are today, sharing your journey, and which we honestly appreciate. So there is something that Eric mentioned, and that is a lot of bitterness, because at the same, and I think this is a case for so many parents, and I'm sure you've even heard this from the news, where of course the parents are the first ones to protect their children, because either out of denial or one way or the other, just trying to protect their children, you know, from going to jail. Because again, like I said, the stories that we hear as far as jail is concerned, or prison is not a good one, right? But majority of the times, in terms of trying to protect them, you're not helping them in one way or the other. So I don't know what you have to say to that, because he was angry at the I'm trying to, you know, and all those things. And then here you are bringing, you know, these officers to where I am. Yeah.
The interesting thing, I think, about parents is we have parents like Eric's mom who would realize that their child is on the wrong, and for them to help this child needs some form of accountability. And if they're not listening to their parents at home, then we need to take the legal route and have the law take its course. Then we have parents again who would know, maybe sit on it, and then their child is arrested, and then once their child is arrested, that's it. They've cut off the ties. So, because I know we also work in the Boston institutions, and we've had children who, for the entire time they're in there, their parents have not made any contact. Like, okay, that child is a truant child, we're done, that's it. But parents don't realize the role that they play in molding these children, in also having that support. That, as Eric has mentioned, as much as it's his mom who may have gotten the police to come and arrest him, but the mom knew at this end, do I want him dead? Or do I want him? Because that's, and at the end of the day, if he's not dead, he might turn also against you. You never know. It's they'll be hurting in any other way. So it's how do you help this child? And that's very important. So we also try, as the interventions that we do, especially as we're working in the mentorship and the preventative wing, to also involve the children, the parents, to have them know that how their children, the mentorship for their children and how they mentor them is very important, because that role model they see at home is what will help them in the decisions that they make. It will help them to grow into confident adults. It will help them to also have that confidence to make the right choices. We don't want that instance. I think most people don't realize that we don't have that instance where your child would get everything from the guidance that you would give them. You know, Waswahili walisema asiyefunzwa na mamaye atafunzwa na ulimwengu. So it's for us to choose, do we want the world to teach, which is a harsher teacher, or do we want ourselves as the parents to be able to take that responsibility and mold our children into the responsible adults that would want them to be, those ones that we can proudly, I know every parent wants to brag. Those ones that we want to brag about and say, yes, that's my child, and I can vouch for them. And where they go wrong, because we never realize that, yes, they can go wrong sometimes, but we still have that leeway to be able to lead them back to the right way.
Absolutely. And even before you went in, were there like stigma? Because majority of the times when you realize that, for example, a child or anyone, adult or a child, is sort of like going left instead of you want them to go right? And then there's usually a lot of stigma where you'd hear a lot of parents say, do not associate yourself with this one, kwa sababu yeye ni mwizi, yeye ni mkora, yeye ni, you know, so we label them and we sort of, you know, we do not want anything to do with it. Did you experience that?
Yes, because I might say I was a bit cheeky that time. Reasons are because I had a duka, I was selling clothes. All right. So my mother knew all along, my son is selling what?
Yeah.
Clothes. And what parents don't know is like a robbery is not a football match. No. It will not last for 90 minutes. No. Robbery is only 5 to 6 minutes. Yeah. Then you'll be back there. So as Sylvia is saying, all parents will want to defend their what?
Their children.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But my mother knew this guy is selling clothes.
Alikuwa tu hapa ameenda kwa duka kuuza nguo.
So yeye ndo atakuja niambia, usitembee na ule kijana. Unaangalia ile maneno anafanya, askari wanakuja kwao. Anambia yes ma'am, yes no. But around 7 or 7:30 I'll be gone somewhere. By 8 I'll be in a house eating. Yeah. So si atasema kuna kijana mzuri. That's true.
That's true.
Which is actually very important.
Right?
Because as parents, do we really know our children? Because some of the times that we can castigate right now and say, okay, fine, you're covering up for your truant child. But do we really spend enough time with our children to know who they hang out with, what they do when we're not there? Because as Erica said, my parents can just assume that, okay, you went to school, you came back home, and because there's no unaccounted for time in between, they're like, my children are the best. So when that news comes up that there's a possibility that your child is in the wrong company or in doing the wrong thing, most parents are very, very defensive at the first. But before we get defensive, and also before we start, because maybe sometimes it's true that someone is just tunawaonea, but can you just take that time to get to understand your child and make your child, I believe you're able to make that child your friend, even if they might not tell you directly, somewhere it will slip up and you will notice there's something that is not adding up in my child's life.
Yeah. Or even adults, right?
Yes.
But go ahead,
For parents, they're always children.
That's true. That's what we're going to break,
you see that we do mentorship also in the community. And you see that this kid started stealing and someone has told you, go talk to that kid. This kid and her mom live in a house maybe they pay rent for 3,500. But when you look at the kid, how he's dressed, the shoes are worth the rent. The jeans is 1,500, the jacket is 1,500. But the mom is always defending the son that is not stealing. But he doesn't want to analyze the son, how he's dressed. Because anasema mimi kijana wangu uko sawa, but where does he get money to buy all expensive clothes?
Also like fund their lifestyle. That's a red flag in itself.
Exactly.
I hear you. All right, let's take a break. But of course, like I said, the reason why both of you are here today is just first of all to understand. So life after prison, what does that look like? How do we promote, rehabilitation and reintegration? Because like I said, there's a lot of stigma really associated with this, and sometimes it's both internal and external as well. How do we accept people who again have been released, and how do we help them find their foot, because majority of the times it's like life has moved on, everyone has moved on, and you're like, so where do I start? All right, so that is what we'll be finding out after the break. But remember the question that we're asking you today, and that is, how do we embrace those who are returning from imprisonment? Once again, how do we embrace those returning from imprisonment? At NTV Kenya, both on Facebook and on Twitter, is how you can reach us, or give us a call. The numbers will be down on your screen in just a moment. But we take a break. See you shortly.
Want to know the biggest story of the week? Do not worry. The Weekly Review has got you covered for in-depth analysis of politics, business, governance, as well as social issues. The Weekly Review covers it all. For well-researched, exclusive and investigative content, read the Weekly Review every Sunday on Nation e-paper and on www.nation.africa. Free of charge.
Yo! Loser! Smile for the selfie!
Kasmile bana, usituharibie pizza tu.
Unajua nini wale mliangukia?
Tusianze hizo.
Sasa upendi kusikia ukweli ama ikitoka place fulani?
Wetu, saa zingine ukiambia hivyo sana, inafika tu mahali unaanza kufeel be different.
Lakini kutoka ubo yaanze kutufanyia biz manze. Biz imekuwa tu mbaya. Daisy uchapiana lakini hajanipatia any recent updates.
Choose boldness. Celebrate the skin you're in and dress with confidence with Nivea Nourishing Cocoa Body Lotion. The triple-layered care of deep moisture serum, precious cocoa butter, and vitamin E enriches your skin for 48 hours. Choose to wear your skin with pride with Nivea.
With Glovo, you have anything you want from your city in your hands. Kama unatamani ugali beef ama fried chicken, order Glovo ujaribu restaurant mpya. Tamu. Kama game inawaka na unataka drinks zaidi, order Glovo ushangilie timu yako. Na kama your little one amemess na diapers zimeisha, order Glovo and save the day. With Glovo, unaweza track order yako na kuongea na customer support, which is always available. Download the app and order anything you want from your city. We'll deliver.
Own your dream home for as low as 1.98 million Kenya shillings in Vipingo, Kilifi, and enjoy a flexible payment plan of 10% on signing of the letter of offer and the balance in equal monthly installments within 18 months. Supported by world-class amenities and infrastructure, our estates offer a unique, secure environment with a wide range of outdoor facilities. SMS Vipingo to 22365 or call us today on 0740 400 215. Terms and conditions apply.
Right, welcome back. Glad you're still with us. The show is Your World, and of course it's all about life after prison. And of course, like we said today, we really want to focus on the whole question about rehabilitation and reintegration, and helping persons who have been released or ex-offenders to actually find their foot. And of course, we have Eric Waweru, who's a returning citizen, and of course, like I said, trained paralegal. All right, really a true testament of second chances and what you choose to do with the same. And of course, we also have Sylvia Morabe, who's a programs director at Crime CPOA. Now, we asked you a very simple question, and that is, how do we embrace those, why do I keep saying those returning from imprisonment? How do we do that? How do we embrace them? And of course, Moses Colley on Twitter says, again, the government should partner up with the community-based organizations, and this is to sensitize the youth of what the law expects from them. And of course, this is the whole aspect about prevention, which is very, very important. But Eric, let's fast forward to 2019, right?
Yes.
So you're told that you're going to be released to go back home. You are angry with your mom, but again, you forgave her, you know, at some point, which is really, really cool. But what was the first immediate thought that you have when you were told, unatoka kesho?
I could not sleep one.
Why? Because of worry, or because you were, you know, overjoyed?
Because I was overjoyed.
Okay.
Because it was not easy. Reasons I had gone to the last court, being at the Court of Appeal. That was in 2012. Wow. No, after that is you wait for the Power of Mercy Advisory Committee. That's true. So for the president to sign for you to be released. Now here you are, people are being released by the POMAC, and you are being left alone because unaambiwa kuna mtu pale kuna miaka 27, so you cannot be released, you have to wait. So you're wondering, kabla ule achiliwe, mimi nitakuwa wapi? Exactly, but we thank the former CJ, Mr. Maraga. He came with the resentencing process, whereby you go back to the law courts where you are sentenced. From there, you are given a resentencing. And at this point, you asked, what are some of the things that you have been doing for the last 14 years and 9 months? So it's up to you to produce certificates. So you have to produce certificates that we are provided by Crime CPOA, vacation training that you have been doing there, carpentry, plumbing, whatever. Now the judge checks and sees that your case, you didn't hurt anyone, so you're good to go home. So from this point, you're given to the probation office. The probation office goes to your house, to your mother's place, ask them if they're ready to receive you. Then they came back, give the report to the judge. Then now here I am on a Monday, 17th July. I've never forgotten that day. You're told that by the magistrate that you are going home. Okay. So I could not sleep. I was just seated on the bed the whole night, wondering, when you see Kumbukorefu?
It's like
24 hours.
Yes.
But finally the morning comes, I'm taken to the probation office. My mother is waiting for me there, my wife, my cousins. I couldn't get into the car. I told them, I want to walk.
Oh, wow.
I just want to walk because to feel free. Taste
of freedom.
Yeah. So I told them that we'll meet at Aga Khan Walk. They're like, 14 years, 9 months. Do you know the way?
Do you even remember? Because a lot of things change. That's a long time.
True.
Yeah.
I got lost when I reached to Uhuru Park. I was like, one of my cousins behind me watching me. Okay. So I was just happy. I couldn't hide the joy. I couldn't eat. Yeah. Because I was just overjoyed.
Absolutely. Yeah. And again, it could be an overwhelming moment, but I'm also trying to figure, because again, 14 years is a long time. A lot of things, you know, have changed. People have moved on. The peers, you know, and all those things. Maybe they're married. Maybe they have families. Maybe they've moved town, and here you are. Did you sort of like feel alone, you know, or isolated? Because where do you start? Yes, your family is there for you. Your wife, you know, came to also, you know, pick you and all those things. But, you know, that moment of, so who am I? Where am I going to do? Where do I start? Did you have those moments?
All I want to say is that I want to thank Crime CPOA for the counseling sessions and the psychoeducation that they were bringing. It's because that they prepared us mentally.
Before?
Yes. Because you find that in this point that through the counseling sessions that you're having, you're being told that when you go outside there, you'll find that there are people who will not like you, and that there are people who will welcome you. And these are the scenarios that I usually find when I go, because I was raised in Jericho, because at a point that I was working with my sister, and one mother came along and said that, nilidhani ulikufa. I was like, okay. Kumbe mlijua nilikufa. So it really hit me, because if someone can wish me death, but I realized that kajembe too. These are the things that I was told. So let me move on, and my life will continue. But I want to thank my family and friends who really came and stood by me.
Support,
and Crime Support at that point called me, the EDP Tauko, and told me that you can start mentorship. Being with the Sylvia Programs Director, they told me you can start mentorship with us, slowly. So at that time I was not that idle, I was doing something. Yeah, and I really appreciate that, because usually I used to paint, people will tell me that there's a friend of mine, go paint for him, Sylvia will tell me my house is looking bad, come and repaint it for me. So through that I've been able to slowly catch up with things, but as they say, so at the end of the day, there are things that as it goes at Changanya, but there are some people who don't like seeing us, because at the end of the day, they lost their brothers, they lost their husbands, because they were shot maybe. Here I am, I've returned. They talk bad about you. But the best thing I was told is avoid those areas. Because maybe I might get angry. And it's true, I avoided it, and today I'm a happy soul. Yes.
I mean, I'm going to come back to you in terms of then finding your way, because you can't avoid those areas forever. At some point, you'll just find yourself, you know, going to those places because you need something, or you're going to visit someone and all those things. But how are you able to maneuver that? But Sylvia, then when does this begin? The whole question about reintegration, because again, like he said, there's some people who are angry with you. Maybe, you know, the parents or families of you know, your peers at that time, maybe they were killed, or maybe they were, you know, jailed. I mean, it's a lot of things to think about. But here you are, just walking around, you know, and like, what are you doing here? But what happened to our child, and all those things. So it might be difficult, and even some families might find it difficult to accept their own kin, right? So then, at what point does, you know, reintegration begin? Yes.
And it's not just that. You'd find even sometimes maybe it's someone you robbed, and you meet them, they're like, simu yangu ilienda na wewe. But the reintegration journey is one that we start when someone is still behind bars. So as Eric has mentioned, one of the programs that we do in the prisons that we work in is psychoeducation mentorship sessions. And why we take a psychoeducation angle with the mentorship sessions we do is to give the inmates an opportunity to also have a chance to think through what it is that brought them here in the first place, to just think about it, avoid those pitfalls, and then equip them with the skills that they need to be able to navigate through that once they come out. So you find one of the topics that we found was one very popular one was anger and anger management, stress and stress management. You'd find that many people would say, maybe I ended up in this route because I could not manage my anger. So how I lashed it out got me in an instance where I grievously harmed someone, and now I am behind bars. And you find sometimes even that aside, there's stress. There's that stress of I am behind bars. I was a breadwinner, for example. How are my family surviving while I am behind bars? There are people maybe I wrong, and I'm having that guilt. We've had instances where people are still struggling with the PTSD, that they're like, okay, I realize that I did something wrong, and some I can atone for, the other, those I can't atone for. It can't come back. How do I go through that? So we have even psychologists that walk through them and just help them to through that counseling session, to help them, okay, realize this is it, you made that mistake. But our prison program actually is called Phoenix, because we want to give that hope that you can rise from the ashes that led you into prison in the first place. And once they are prepared with that, at the integration journey, where we know that in the next month you're leaving, we now start that process of, okay, this is what we'd expect when you go out. Are you ready? Who do we need to be also working together with the probation and aftercare? Who do we need to link you up with? Is it your family? There are those ones who maybe their families have not seen them for the entire period they've been in prison. So do we need to start those conversations with the family? I know one of the last returning citizens we helped reintegrate recently, towards his release, is like, I would really, really like to have that conversation with my wife, because I know I didn't wrong my wife personally, but whatever I did hurt her so much that I would like to just have that conversation with her to see if, you know, she can forgive me before I go back home. Who else do you like that? And this helps. Actually, you'd find that within the prisons, the welfare office also provides for that instances where if you want to be reconciled with your victims and you want to just tell them, yes, I'm sorry, I have gone through this, I have realized my mistake, I have paid my dues and done my time. I would like to just say sorry. So that reintegration helps the inmate at that point to also make that peace and also gives that person a bit of closure. And you realize it's not automatic that because I say sorry,
oh yeah, that someone is gonna forgive you. No,
you would forgive. But at least it gives that a chance. It gives you a little bit of time to heal. So that reintegration process, we're very keen to start on it before, and then afterwards, once you come out, we realize that when you start and you come out, again, you've been in bars 14 years. By the time you come out, the world is different.
Everything is different.
Everything is different. How do we help you just navigate? So working through a care package, we have that psychosocial that we continue to work with you for a while to just also watch what is it that you need. Are you able to reintegrate? Are you facing any challenges? For where we can assist by the help of both CSP and CSP Crime People well-wishers, we're able to provide just something small to help you continue. So we've had there's one recent one, I think that was covered a couple of weeks ago, of one returning citizen, Joseph Kangede from Nakuru main prison, who we went back home, at least because we started that process, the family was able to embrace him, and he had learned tailoring. He was a very good tailor while at Nakuru. He'd help in tailoring that. So one thing that he just needed, he asked for, was a sewing machine, that we could get a sewing machine so that he can continue with that business and be able to start his life. We're able to source one. We had other well-wishers give him another, and now he's not only just helping within his area to, you know, sew and mend clothes and earn a living, he's also training young boys and young girls in the community to do the same. So it's that journey, as you're able to have that attitude change and just have that belief that there's someone, because we realize having someone to stand with you and believe that, you know, once you've changed is very key, and it helps this person to avoid going back, because recidivism half the time happens because you come out, you have no support, you've already been stigmatized, you don't know what, no one wants to hire you, no one wants to believe in you, so half the time you find yourself that you're coming up. So providing that support system that would prevent you from needing to go back into crime.
All right. And then, so then how do you deal with that whole question about guilt and self-stigma as well? Because yes, you might go through, you know, the whole process of counseling and all those things, and it's one thing to go through counseling, and then when you come out, you find a totally different world, and sometimes you can even forget everything that you learned, you know, in there. So it's because it's difficult. You know, you come into the real world. You hope for like proper reception, but then sometimes you end up getting totally opposite, and you're like, so what do I do? Maybe I deserve, you know, this kind of life, and that is what we're saying. You know, people might actually find themselves in a place of reoffending. So do you have like instances of, you know, guilt and self-stigma and, you know, all those things, and especially when you came out and faced the real world?
Yes. At a point, I went to the place that we were about to rob.
Okay.
And asked myself, what was I doing? And the guilt was so much on me, because I made a mistake. Seeing my friends who I left behind, who I schooled with, they are now working, have families. So that thing was really putting me down. But I want to thank one person by the name Bishop Joseph Karaoke of Destiny Community Church. He really prayed for me. Yeah, because he's somebody who has been coming to prison, seeing me. And when I came out, usually every Sunday, he will tell me, come to church. Pray for me, come to church, pray for me, come to church, pray for me, until it reached a point that the guilty started
slowly faded.
Yes, together with crime people were keeping me busy on the other end. I couldn't focus so much on the guilt. I started focusing on my life. And through that, Zawadi came along, and I thank God for that.
How old is she now?
She's 2 years, 4 months.
Oh man, she's still so young. All right, what are the reasons to keep you going?
And I thank the mother also so much for being with me. So much.
And support is very important, like you're saying. You know, because if you imagine coming out and then your family does not support you, they have not accepted you, and then you know, your peers are not there anymore. Like you said, majority of them, you know, actually died.
Yes.
And you're alone. You're like, so then where do I start at all, and all those things. But there's some people who unfortunately do not have that. They do not have that kind of support, do not have anywhere to go to or who to turn to, right? What would you tell, you know, such a person? Hopefully they're watching, or even their family and all these things, because you got support from your family from
Yes.
the word go.
What I can tell the families that people can change, irrespective of what they did. There's always such a second chance. If God can give us a second chance, we are as human beings. Who are we not to
give second chances?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And for this person who's suffering, just focus on your life, and everything will work out for you. And what I usually tell people when I do mentorship, always focus on God also, because without God, will not go anywhere.
Yeah.
So what I can tell them that maybe there's someone who's suffering, maybe can contact me, come to our offices, maybe I'll work with him that journey and help him, because we have so many partners.
Yeah.
Maybe I can help him in one way or another.
One way or the other.
Yes.
Okay. Like you said, at some point you visited the place where you were.
Yeah,
you were
so
about
many
to
times. So many times I got
All
there.
right. But before that, did you ever, I don't know, like met someone that you offended or anything? Like, have you ever met any of those people to just say
No,
sorry?
because
Okay.
as I said earlier, I was cheeky.
Okay.
I couldn't do those things or rob wherever I used to stay. I used to go far. So that's why many people didn't know that I used to do
This
these
is what
things.
was happening. Yeah.
So I never met anyone.
Okay,
Yes.
any of those people.
Yes.
Okay, all right. I hear you. But Sylvia, we also talked about how important, again, you know, reintegration starts. It needs to start early, even before this person is released. But what about then the community? Because you might actually talk to the family, you know, patch things up so that by the time this person leaves the prison, there is some, you know, level of peace and, you know, cordial and all those things, and they can accept, you know, their kin. But the larger society, in terms of just embracing these people back, because again, you know, like Eric said, second chances, right? We all deserve a second chance. So for the larger community, where do we begin? And this is in terms of embracing, because maybe there's some who lost their family, lost their property, lost things that they held dear, you know, in this process, and this is as far as crime is concerned. So accepting these people, forgiving these people, and just embracing them back. Okay. Again, where do we start from? Because you can't cancel everyone. Call the community and say, let's sit down and let's talk about this.
Very true. As we start that journey with the inmates, as I mentioned, that's as the journey starts when we're getting back to their community and trying to see where they're going back into. That's a point again to start the journey, to prepare the community to receive this person once they're back. That we're like, Eric is coming out in the next month. Eric, the parents live here, we're talking to the parents, but getting, and this is something not just Crime Power does, but under the Kenya Prison Service, there is the probation and aftercare department that also goes back, as he mentioned, that we have that officer who would go back to the community and talk to the people and let them know that, okay, your son is coming back, your neighbor is coming back, are you ready to receive them? And that happens a lot. And other than that as well, in the interventions that we do, because we don't only, as we mentioned, it's not just working with the inmates, but as we work in the community, in the interventions that we do in the schools, in the interventions that we do in the community, as we're talking about crime awareness and helping them to just have that ownership around safety and justice issues, is also that time to have that conversation, to let them know that, yes, at this point we're dealing with this crime, but you realize that there are maybe some of your sons, some of your daughters that have already gone down that path, and they're behind, but at that point they will come back. How do you embrace them once they have changed to come back and they'd want to be those pioneers that you work with? Because as they come back and you realize, for those who come out and they have reformed, truly reformed, and realized they are wrong and atoning for it, they come out as champions. They want to come out and show the next person the ropes that I walked that path, you don't need to walk that path as well. So just helping the community to understand. And at Crime Support, we work with returning citizens. We don't just work with them in prison, and once you come out, we're done with you. But how do we work with you to also, as we go into community awareness sessions, and we're talking about legal matters, as we're talking about crime issues, to have them come into the community and let them know, yes, these crime issues that we're talking about, I have been down that road, and these are the pitfalls. First of all, these are the things that you can notice in your children, and once they come there, this is how you can support them once they come back, so that you can work with them to create a safer environment that you can all be proud of.
Absolutely.
So it's a collaborative effort that takes
some bit of time,
takes time. It doesn't happen overnight, and it's a process.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And especially when it comes to, because trust here is a very big issue. How do we trust you that really you have reformed, right?
Yes.
That we can sleep at night, right? Bila kufikiria, hey, nani amerudi? What's gonna happen, right? So for the I would say, like, what role then do inmates have, and this is like the reformed once you are reintegrated into the society? Very quickly, because Jackson is like, yeah, you literally have 3 minutes to go. What role then do they play, you know, just to make sure that you know, everything is okay, that you earn that trust? Because again, you do not demand, right? You have to earn it. So what role again do you know, like, former offenders have to sort of like play?
One of the things that from the probation office, one of the things that they do, they make sure first you don't go to the area that you committed the crime. But all in all, you have to earn trust from community members, and the best way to earn trust is to do a good job, and do positive things in the community. And I think Crime Support has helped me in this, because after being trained on how to do the mentorship sessions, I went back to the community.
All right.
I realized that kid is stealing. I face him, talk to him. I take him to committee. Whenever you're having the sports mentorship, he sees what kind of life people are going through. That visit changes people. And through that, they are able to trust me again and see that the good job that I'm doing in the community. So I think from that point, exactly. From that point, people started trusting me, and I'm happy about that, because sio rahisi vile umesema ati mtu ameweka jiko yake pale anapika kichunguli hivi anasema huyu jamaa anaweza pita naye. Exactly. But I think for me it's a plus right now, because it's a long journey, because they can't just trust you that way. But it's a long journey that I've gone, and I'm happy that they can able to trust me. And maybe at times unaona mtu akuja anakuambia shike gari ya kifungu yangu nipeleke gari kaosh. It's a big thing for me, because I feel that that person is trusting me, and it's a plus for me.
It's a good thing. I like that. All right, so as we bring this to a close, what is it that you will tell people? Because you're here to share your journey, and this is as far as Second Chances is concerned, and putting in the power and the will to change for the better, not just for yourself, but you know, for the community at large. So what is it that you would tell the society, having seen both lives, right, of, you know, being on the offense and now being, you know, reformed, and here you are, you know, putting in the good? What is it that you would say?
What I can tell community members is that you see, they run or reach out to say ule ni mwizi, and when that person is killed by police, they are demonstrating. When that kid was stealing, where were you? Ulimkataza. So I can tell community members, whenever you see a kid is going the wrong way, please try as much as you can, talk to that person. And for the people who are coming out from prison, just allow them back to the community. This person has suffered, this person has gone through emotional and mental tortures, so welcome him back to the community, give them that chance. They are brothers and their sisters, because you realize that if you go to prison, you never find someone from Lavington, Kilelesho. The prison people from Eastlands are the ones who are in prison. Meaning what? Poverty drove them to what they were doing. So when this person comes back, this person has changed. Maybe 90% of people who have seen, 10% are the ones who reoffend. And it's because of the reasons that we were saying, not being welcomed back to the community well. So they beat that bitterness, drives them back to what? The crime. So I'll tell the community, just accept people. People can change, because personally,
embrace them. Okay, I like that. Thank you very much, Eric. And Sylvia, let's just focus more on prevention, because we do not want to see people, you know, because like I say, it's a lot to go through, and then coming back and thinking, where do I start, and all those things. So prevention, what is it that we do? Because we all have a role to play, right? Not only just the parents or, you know, the partners, you know, family members, but the entire community have a role to play. So where do we start from? Very quickly, 30 seconds.
Okay. The one thing I have noticed, especially when we're working with the juvenile boys at YCTC, is there's that lack of positive role models. So one of the very first interventions we did at YCTC was to give them a positive role model that they can look at, especially at that point male role models for the young boys and the female one for the girls, that they can look at and say, this is the person that I look up to, this is the person that is helping me if I'm going through any trouble, if I'm going through any life changes, I can talk to this person and they will guide. So for each one of us as a community, let's take that role. Let's be our brother's keeper. Our grandparents and parents survived in that society where everyone was your parent, everyone was would be able to tell you that this is the right path, walk in it, this is the wrong path, avoid it. So if we could be that role model for the generations that are coming behind us, if we are to be that role model even for our peers, sometimes maybe our peers would listen to us a little bit more than they would listen to an older person. So be that role model. Let's model and be, I always say, be the change that you want to see. So that I want this, I want a society where I can walk out without having to figure out, I want to be able to walk free, but to be able to walk that free, then what is it that I can do personally? What is it that is within my power to do? So that to help become that change.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you very much, Sylvia, for that. Sylvia Murabe, Programs Director, Crimes CPOA, as well as Eric Waweru, returning citizen. And I'm really like that. When I say trained paralegal, it just gives me joy because again, second chances, like you said. You know, as far as your life and you're here today offering mentorship and all those things, just here to tell people it is possible to reform and, you know, do better. So Asante Sana for coming by today. Really appreciate your time. And thank you so much for staying with us as well until the end of the show. Thank you for your feedback as well. But of course, the message is very clear. Let's embrace one another. Let's treat each other with empathy and give people second chances. All right? Let's embrace one another. So have yourselves a good one. See you tomorrow morning right here on Your World. Stay safe.